Document itself,
Yes.
there are a number of references to the former administration.
So is Trump's name mentioned just one time?
I believe it's mentioned more.
Okay. 5 times.
I haven't counted.
Oh, okay. Well, if I told you that his name is mentioned approximately 312 times, would you have any reason to dispute that?
I don't have any reason to.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's interesting that we want to try to pretend. We're not going to pretend in here. We're going to work with facts and not fiction. So I also want to talk about.
Okay, somebody can mention your name. Listen, somebody can go commit a crime and mention your name, and you have nothing to do with the actual crime. It happens literally every day. People put your name in stuff that ain't got nothing to do with you every day, or you have experienced it. But since she says she want to deal with facts, let's listen to the person that actually wrote the document himself. Let's not speculate. Even though she can sit up here and spew rhetoric all she want, but we going to hear it from the horse's mouth. We're not going to speculate.
I'm joined by Paul Dans. It's great to have you here. I mean, as you know, given what we've seen from the conventions, it's almost inevitable that this will be brought up on the debate stage tomorrow night. Are you worried that your work could be a liability for Trump when he's on stage up there tomorrow?
No, not at all. And thank you for having me, Keelan. Look, President Trump's the greatest debater, bar none, of our time. And, the breaking news is Trump has nothing to do with Project 2025. Sure, a lot of us have worked in the admin.
Inflation really quickly with you, Ms. Perryman, because we've talked about it a lot. I'm just curious to know, is the inflation that we just struggled through, was that global or was that limited to the United States?
Global.
Global. Seemingly, it was attached to this thing called the global pandemic. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just the United States.
No.
Okay, so it wasn't just a matter of the Biden-Harris administration.
All right, so we're going to start right here. This is for evidence purposes only. All right, so let's go. Which states, since you said it was global, but we're going to deal with just the United States. And then we'll deal with some other countries. Which states did not shut down? Listen, y'all see it. Which states did not shut down during COVID? Since you say it was a worldwide pandemic and not just the United States. Well, let's deal with that. Boom. Listen, by the end of March, 32 states had issued lockdown orders. 11 more states followed in the first week of April. But in the end, 7 states, Arkansas, Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming decided not to lock down at all. See, y'all didn't even know that. Because y'all don't do research. Y'all listen to people like JasmineCrockett that's biased. Every freaking state. We ain't even going to deal with different countries. Because Sweden did shut down. The country Sweden did not shut down at all. There are other countries that did not shut down. So there was not a global pandemic. Even though there was, everybody did not shut down, and even in the United States. So listen, I'm going to take South Dakota. And South Dakota didn't even have the best numbers. Wyoming actually had the best numbers. But for me to give y'all the facts, let's go ahead and post the receipts and the facts. Let's talk about it.
Believe it myself. All right, so I'm going to read to you from this article just real quick. So the article comes from KELOLAND.com. It says Governor Nome announces $19 million 2020 budget surplus. Man, I still can't believe it. So the 2020 budget year ended on June 30th, and Governor Kristi Noem announced it ended with a $19.1 million surplus. Noem's announcement said total revenues finished $7.9 million lower than estimates, but the general fund budget ended with $27.2 million in lower expenditures. A total of $74.8 million of coronavirus relief funds was spent in the 2020 fiscal year. Of the $27.2 million of 2020 general funds reversions, $23.9 million came from the executive branch agencies, $1.8 million came from the Board of Regents, and $900,000 came from the Unified Judicial System, and $600,000 came from the legislature and constitutional offices. Sales and use tax, which is the state's largest revenue source, finished 11.8 million below estimates, but grew 4.6% over the previous fiscal year. The $19.1 million surplus will go to the federal budget reserve fund as required by law. South Dakota's state budget reserve fund has a balance of $149.4 million. Holy cow! This state has $149.9 million accumulating. In each year, they're saving more. This is not the first time South Dakota has had a surplus. I really like the sound of this governor. How wonderful to have an example of what good government could and should do on a regular basis. All right, so I just did a video on us.debtclock.org, us.debtclock.org. Go look at that in stark contrast to South Dakota, because we're at 23, closing in on $24 trillion of overspending by the federal government. Now, the really cool thing about this is South Dakota wasn't even the one with the lowest one, or I should say it this way. Because of the health challenge and the shutdown, right? South Dakota decided to take a very different view than some of the other states in the nation. They decided to keep things open and give people the opportunity that if they wanted to wear a mask, they could wear a mask. And if they wanted to shut down their business, they could, if they didn't have to. And so the end result was that they had the second least amount of economic impact. In other words, they didn't have devastation economically like the rest of the nation. They had a slowdown, which I believe was like around 2% or something like that. It was, in fact, I'll read the tweet to you here in a second. But they weren't even the first ones. They weren't the ones that actually went down the least. It was actually, I think it was Wyoming. So let me find that tweet and I'll read to you from that, because it's just extraordinary. Okay, so this is on Governor Kristi Noem's personal Twitter account. And it's from July 7th. It says, today, BEA News announced that South Dakota had the second smallest economic slowdown of any state in the first quarter. She says the credit here goes to South Dakotans for exercising their personal responsibility. Our low taxes and regulation put us in a great spot for our economy to bounce back. South Dakota was down 2.2%. Its Nebraska was only down 1.3%. So this economic devastation that's occurring across the nation clearly did not happen equally from state to state. Now, what is this?
December 2020, the last full month in office for Donald Trump, inflation was 1.4%. The average for the whole year with Trump was 1.2%. Biden drove it up to a 40-year high. He lies and says, we took over a problem. We've been working on it. He created a problem because the first thing that he did was, and you guys know this story, they killed our energy independence. They killed the XL pipeline, 10,000 jobs and all the energy, froze student debt collection with $800 billion bailout for the kids that went to college, nothing for the kids that couldn't afford to go to college but wish they could have. He rejoined the Paris Climate Accords, which again killed industry in the United States, then opened up pathways for illegals to gain citizenship, opened up the borders for millions to come in on the government dole, halted construction of a border wall, and that was all day one. That was on the first day. Those were all executive acts, like the devil went into the Oval Office. So for the first 6 months in office, inflation went from 1.4 to 5.4. I don't want to overwhelm you with numbers. Let me just tell you. When he says inflation's gone down under our watch, they drove it up to 9%, almost double digit by June. It's fallen down to 6.5%. And get this again. Trump 1.2, Biden 6.5, and he's taking credit for driving down inflation only because he drove it up to the critical point where we almost had a seizure.
Now, documented facts, receipts, things that can be proven not rhetoric, not opinions. Ball game.